When somebody hurts you, especially a man you gave your time, your energy, your loyalty to, your first instinct is to react. You want to scream, cry, explain yourself, make him understand what he did, why it was wrong, and how deeply it cut. You want to demand an apology, demand closure, demand answers. That's natural, that's human, but let me tell you something. The more you react emotionally to pain, the more power you give the person who caused it. And the truth is, not everybody who hurts you deserves to see your tears. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is not fight, not beg, not chase, but to confuse him with something he didn't expect, your silence, your strength, and your self-control. When you stay calm, when you don't give him the drama he's used to, it rattles him. It makes him question everything, because most people are so used to chaos following pain, they get comfortable with their ability to push your buttons. So when you don't let them press play on your emotions, when you don't curse them out, don't call them back, don't start throwing all the history in their face, that silence becomes deafening, it shakes him. That confusion, that's your new control. You're no longer reacting. You're thinking. You're no longer explaining. You're evolving. He expected a meltdown, but now he's watching a masterclass in self-respect. This isn't about playing games. This is about setting a new tone. You don't win by trying to prove you were worth better treatment. You don't win by listing your loyalty like it's some receipt. You win by showing him that even though he thought he had a piece of you, he never really understood the depth of your power. He thought hurting you would keep you small. He thought you'd come back trying to fix what he broke. But now he's the one left with questions. Now he's wondering why you didn't chase, why you didn't fight, why you didn't fall apart like he thought you would. He's used to women breaking down. He's used to women needing closure, needing validation, needing to be seen. But when you choose not to give him that satisfaction, when you decide to heal without his involvement, you confuse his ego. You flip the script. He didn't expect you to go quiet. He didn't expect you to move on with dignity. And now he's sitting there trying to figure out whether you never cared, or whether you just learned how to care for yourself more. And that, right there, is the kind of confusion that teaches a man a lesson no argument ever could. Because what you're doing in that silence is building. You're building back your peace. You're rebuilding your value, not for him, but for yourself. You're reminding yourself that your emotions don't belong in someone else's hands. That you don't need to react to pain to process it. That healing can happen behind closed doors and still be just as powerful. And you're showing him, whether he admits it or not, that you're not the woman he thought he could walk over. When you stop reacting, you start regaining your footing. You're no longer swinging wildly, trying to make him see your worth. You're moving with purpose, with poise. You're not lost in the pain anymore. You're learning from it. And the confusion he feels watching you remain poised, that's the exact opposite of what he thought he'd get. That's how you take your power back, by refusing to let him drag you into the mess he made. By being the calm after the storm, not the thunder he thought he'd provoke. Sometimes the greatest revenge is not anger, it's grace. It's the way you smile again, unbothered. The way you keep moving without hesitation. The way you get up every day and choose yourself. That kind of peace, that kind of restraint. It's unsettling to someone who thought they broke you. And the more he tries to make sense of your silence, the more you rise. Not because of him, in spite of him. You don't owe anyone the pieces of you they tried to shatter. You owe it to yourself to rebuild with intention. Let him sit in confusion. Let him wonder. You've got better things to do. When he hurts you, he thinks he's breaking you. That's the assumption. He believes his actions, his silence, his betrayal, or his disrespect are enough to shatter your spirit. He expects you to spiral, to question yourself, to fall apart crying on the bathroom floor. He expects your world to pause, to revolve around his absence or his mistake. And too often, that's exactly what happens. But not this time. This time, you're going to do something different. You're going to glow up. You're going to become so unrecognizable in your growth that it stings more than any revenge could ever deliver. Pain is a strange fuel. You can either let it drown you, or you can light a fire with it. When a man hurts you, you don't retaliate, you transform. You don't waste time plotting your next text, your next post, your next move to get his attention. You put all that energy into becoming the version of yourself he never believed you could be. You hit the gym not to get him back, but to get yourself back. You eat right, rest better, fix your routine, upgrade your habits. Not because you're trying to impress him, but because you owe it to the woman you lost while trying to love someone who didn't deserve you. This isn't about showing him what he missed. This is about realizing you were the blessing all along, and now it's time to bless yourself. You don't just heal, you elevate. You don't just recover, you rebuild stronger. You don't just cry, you rise, because when you level up, you change the entire conversation. Suddenly, he's confused. He expected a meltdown, but he's watching a miracle. He thought you'd chase, but you vanished into purpose. He thought he'd haunt you, but you started living like he never existed. And the truth is, nothing bothers someone who hurt you more than your happiness without them. You smiling again, glowing again, walking in confidence like you never skipped a beat. That's the kind of power they can't handle. Because it forces them to realize you weren't dependent, you were just loyal. You weren't weak, you were invested. But now you're invested in yourself. You're loyal to your healing. You're committed to your glow up. Every time you choose to work on you instead of worrying about him, you're taking back your power. Every time you laugh from your soul, love yourself deeper, and build a life that doesn't include him, you're showing that pain might have touched you, but it didn't define you. You're showing that heartbreak may bend you, but it won't break you. And most importantly, you're reminding yourself that nobody can destroy a woman who knows her worth. He thought you'd come crawling back. He thought he was the prize. But now he's sitting with the weight of his mistake while you're out here building peace, purpose, and prosperity. You're not texting him at midnight. You're not checking his stories. You're not begging for closure. You are your own closure. Your peace is the final sentence to the chapter he tried to leave open. That glow, that new job, that fresh mindset, that unbothered energy, that's what confuses him. Because he thought you were his, and now you don't even look back. You became the version of you that was buried under his neglect. You stopped dimming your light just to make him comfortable. You stopped shrinking to fit into his idea of love. And now you're shining with a radiance that can't be ignored. You don't owe him a meltdown. You owe yourself a miracle. You don't owe him a war. You owe yourself a win. And every time you wake up and choose growth, every time you laugh like you mean it, every time you walk into a room and hold your head high, you're confusing the one who thought he had power over your heart. You want to know what truly confuses a man who hurt you? It's not anger. It's not revenge. It's you glowing like nothing ever happened. It's peace in your spirit. It's the silence of no response. It's the transformation of the woman he once knew into the queen he'll never know again. ChatGPT said, when someone hurts you, especially a man you cared for, it's easy to feel like you owe them an explanation of who you are. You want to scream, you want to cry, you want to ask why. You want to prove that you were worth it, that you were enough, that you didn't deserve to be treated like that. But that's where the trap is. That's where so many people fall into the cycle of trying to win the approval of someone who already showed you they couldn't see your value. The truth is, when a man hurts you, the most powerful thing you can do is not try to prove anything at all. Don't beg, don't chase, don't explain your worth, just move. See, some men hurt you not because of something you did, but because of something they lacked inside themselves. Some men hurt you because they're broken, insecure, or emotionally immature, and instead of healing, they drag others into their chaos. So when they see that they caused you pain, they expect you to fall apart. They expect the texts, they expect the long paragraphs, they expect the tears, they expect you to chase after them, to make them feel like a man again by proving how badly you wanted to stay. But when you don't, when you stand still in your strength and say nothing, that's when you confuse the hell out of them. Walking away without a word isn't weakness. It's discipline, it's strength. It's the kind of self-control that shakes the ground under someone who thought they had power over you. Because silence speaks louder than any emotional outburst ever could. Silence says, I know my worth, and I don't have to argue about it. Silence says, I don't need you to validate me because I validate myself. Silence says, I choose peace over proving. You have to understand that your energy is currency. When you give it away too freely to someone who has disrespected you, you're giving them a discount they didn't earn, and they'll keep expecting it. That's why you don't explain. That's why you don't beg. That's why you don't try to remind them of all the good you brought into their life. They already know, and if they didn't value it when they had it, they won't suddenly appreciate it just because you said the right words. What makes them think twice isn't a heartfelt message. It's your absence. It's watching you disappear from the drama. It's seeing you do better without them, not because you want revenge, but because you finally chose yourself. Moving on doesn't have to be loud. You don't have to announce it on social media. You don't have to send a closure text. You don't have to call your friends to report every little thing. Sometimes the most powerful move is the quiet one. The one where you heal in private, the one where you level up behind the scenes, the one where you smile not because everything's perfect, but because you know your peace is worth more than any man's confusion. And let's be real, when you stop trying to prove your worth to someone who hurt you, it throws them off. It shakes their ego because they thought you needed them. They thought you wouldn't know what to do without their attention. They thought they were the main character in your life. But when you move, quietly, gracefully, without explanation, you remind them that they were just a chapter, not the whole story. You remind them that your life doesn't end where they left. It gets better, stronger, smarter. You don't confuse a man by trying to make him see your value. You confuse him by becoming so focused on your own growth that his opinion no longer holds weight. You confuse him by refusing to shrink yourself just to fit into his comfort zone. You confuse him by moving on in silence, by leveling up in ways he never expected, by showing that the version of you that needed his approval no longer exists. You're no longer standing there waiting for answers. You're out there building a life so rich, so full, so real, that the pain he caused becomes just a footnote in your journey, not the headline. So don't argue, don't plead, don't text him trying to make him see. You already are the proof. Your glow, your peace, your evolution. That's the proof. And when he realizes he lost someone who didn't just love him, but loved herself more than staying in a place that hurt, that's when he feels it. Not when you cry, not when you beg, but when you move in silence with purpose, with strength. Because that's the kind of power that doesn't need to be spoken. It's felt. Let me tell you something. When somebody thinks they've figured you out, especially a man who has hurt you, they think they own the script to your emotions. They expect a pattern. They expect the tears, the texts, the breakdowns, the begging. They think you're going to play the role they wrote for you in their mind, and when you don't, that's when the game changes. That's when the confusion begins. That's when the power shifts. See, most people, especially when they've hurt you, want to know they still got access. They want to know you still feel something. They want to poke at the wound just to see if you'll flinch. But the moment you stop reacting how they expect you to, they start questioning their own grip on the situation. That silence, that unread message, that calm smile when they expected a storm, that's not just confusing, that's unsettling. That's when they sit back and say, wait, what's going on? There is power in mystery. There is strength in unpredictability. And there is a quiet kind of revenge in leaving a man wondering what version of you he just unleashed. See, when you become too predictable, you give people a blueprint on how to hurt you again. But when you stop playing by the rules they wrote for you, when you step out of the cage of their expectations, you become something they don't know how to handle, and that's exactly where you want to be. You don't need to go out and explain your moves. You don't need to announce your healing. You don't even need to let him know he hurt you. The best response sometimes is no response. Let him wonder if you even noticed. Let him sit in silence and try to read between lines you never wrote. Let him make up stories in his head because the real one you're writing now, it doesn't involve him. He's not part of the next chapter, and that's the most powerful plot twist of all. You confuse him by being unavailable, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. You detach, you elevate, you do things that make you proud. You show up looking better, walking taller, talking with more purpose. Not to impress him, but because you've stopped making him your center. And when a man who's hurt you sees that you've taken back control of your life, it messes with him. Because people who expect destruction can't handle evolution. He expected you to collapse. He thought he'd be the reason you stayed down. But now you're doing things that don't match his narrative. You're glowing. You're moving in silence. You're planning things he's not invited to. And every time he checks in to see if he still matters, all he gets is the echo of his own ego. Nothing more. That kind of silence is loud. That kind of mystery is heavy. That kind of confidence is unforgettable. You see, when you act exactly the way he hoped you wouldn't, when you don't give him the satisfaction of being the center of your pain, you show him that he never really had that much power to begin with. That hurts more than any words you could ever say. That haunts people, because confusion breeds curiosity, and curiosity has a way of eating people up from the inside out. He'll keep wondering if you still care. If you ever cared, if he ever really knew you, that's the storm he'll sit in while you keep walking through sunshine. The mystery isn't about playing games. It's about reclaiming the part of you that doesn't owe anybody your explanation. It's about realizing that not every hurt deserves a reaction. Some hurts deserve distance. Some wounds don't need to be shown to the world. They need to be healed privately, deeply, completely. And when you rise from that, when you return to the world with more wisdom, more poise, more purpose, that's the ultimate confusion to the man who thought he broke you. He expected the worst. You became the best, and he'll never be able to predict you again. When a man hurts you, he expects a reaction. He's looking for the tears, the screaming, the desperate texts. He wants to know that he still controls your emotions, that somehow, despite everything, he still has a grip on your heart. But here's the secret: you don't owe him your chaos. The most powerful move you can make when someone wounds you is to shift from reaction to strategy. When you choose not to react in the way they expect, you confuse them, you throw them off, that silence, that calm, that composure. They won't know what hit them. Because the truth is, nothing shakes a man more than a woman who doesn't fall apart when he was counting on her to crumble. People who hurt others usually do it to provoke a response, to prove to themselves that they still matter in your world. When you break down crying, begging, asking why, it feeds their ego. But when you sit back, breathe, and choose peace over performance, they feel the absence of their power. They begin to realize you're not the same person they thought they were playing. You're not a puppet on a string. You're not just emotions they can control on command. You're more than that, and now they have to sit with the truth that maybe, just maybe, they lost something real. And they won't get it back. Calm is a weapon. It's the sign of a woman who has done the work, who understands that her value isn't proven in how loud she reacts, but in how quietly she walks away. Don't underestimate how powerful it is to say nothing. To not answer that message, to not explain yourself. That silence will echo louder in his head than anything you could ever scream. Because he'll be waiting for the storm. He'll expect fire. But instead he gets nothing. And that nothing, that's everything, that's strength, that's confidence, that's healing in motion. You see, you can either give him a show or you can give him silence. One drains your energy, the other reclaims it. When you choose strategy over reaction, you remind yourself that your peace is not for sale. You protect your future from the damage of temporary pain. Let him sit with the weight of his actions. Let him wonder why you didn't respond, why you didn't fight, why you didn't break. Let him replay every word he said, trying to figure out where he lost his grip. That's not being petty, that's being powerful. The mistake too many people make is thinking they have to defend themselves when someone disrespects them. But if someone can't see your worth, your response won't teach them. Your silence, your peace, your progress, that's what will teach them. That's what will shake them. You don't confuse a man by matching his behavior. You confuse him by rising above it, by staying unbothered in the middle of the mess, by refusing to let him control your emotional thermostat. He doesn't deserve to know that he got to you. He doesn't need the satisfaction of watching you lose your cool. There's a reason silence is so uncomfortable for some people. It forces them to hear their own thoughts, to sit in the consequences, and if he had any kind of conscience, your silence will be louder than any argument. It'll play on repeat in his mind long after the moment has passed, and when he realizes you're not chasing, not explaining, not even checking, he'll know. He'll know he messed up. He'll know he lost something valuable. And you didn't even have to say a word, but don't just be silent for him. Be silent for you, because in that quiet you'll hear your own strength. In that calm you'll rebuild your dignity. You'll remember who you are, what you deserve, and you'll stop trying to prove anything to someone who already showed you they couldn't appreciate what they had. You'll rise, not to prove a point, but because you refuse to stay low for someone who wouldn't rise for you. So confuse him, not with bitterness, not with revenge, but with the most unexpected move of all, peace. Let him feel what it's like to lose a woman who knew her worth, not by reacting, but by walking away with her head high and her soul intact.